Hi, I'm Rob. I make you better, that's what I do. In the last year, I released a couple of things that are going to revolutionize golf. One of them is my grip, to how to hold the club. Because for 120 years, people have been teaching you to put the thumb on the shaft. That means that you lose power and accuracy, and you create a couple of problems. Did you know that? No, of course not, because you trust those people, two pro gurus like Monte Schumblom, and Kane, Sean Foley, Pete Cowan, and others. To trust them, well, this must be the way because they've been teaching it for 120 years. My grip changed all that. Now, and the reason why this guy, he's a lefty by the way, swings and he uses my grip. Why does he use my grip? Why doesn't he use, the modern golf grip? Because he tested it out. I didn't tell him to, change to my grip. I suggested it, absolutely. And then when he tried it out, probably found, this makes sense. It works better. My golf grip, gives you more power and accuracy, and it works better. So, a while ago, this tester was telling me, because he was asking me, hey Rob, what about your grip? So I made a video for this guy. And he's using my grip now. I didn't tell him to change my grip. I suggest people, as members, to change my grip. Is it better? Now, then Hans watched the video. I didn't tell Hans anything about this stuff, by the way. Hans watched the video made for this guy. And Hans tried it out. He likes to experiment nowadays. I don't know why. Probably something I said, I guess. And once he tested it, after a while he started to think, it's kind of a little bit different. Because the first time you do something you've never done before, it kind of feels weird. Maybe even feel wrong or awkward. But he tried it for a while, and then he tried to go back to his modern golf grip, and he started to feel a difference. In fact, he couldn't really go back to his old golf grip because he felt this is more difficult. And people who are really good at this kind of stuff, in any sport, they have very high sensitivity, to feel, if it works better or not, if it's more difficult or complicated. So after a while, Hans now he uses my grip. Interesting thing is that he can now swing and play basically like Moe Norman did, which is basically, if you want to be really, it's not hard to quantify and measure it actually, but he was very accurate, as the people say. But Hans is not just able to be accurate, he's also able to be, long. So if I release this kind of stuff, that a couple of things that, changes the course of golf instruction forever. A lot of people say, maybe if you're an amateur, even a two pro, you may not understand that yet. Because you think, well, if it was that big of a thing, everybody would talk about it. Well, most people don't understand that if you're in a field, you're not going to change because people don't believe in this. When Janne Buchler, for example, in ski jumping, started to ski jump with the skis like this, everybody else was ski jumping with skis like that because that's for the tradition. So when he started to master this and went out there and won 3 World Cup, during the season, and he became the World Cup champion. The season after that, everybody was ski jumping like this. So no one today would teach you to ski jump like this because one, you ski jump shorter with that. Number 2 reason is that you're going to have a 30% more injury rate. It's easier to fall over if you ski jump like this than this because you get more surface area. That's why airplane stays in the air also much better than. Imagine an airplane doesn't have wings, it wouldn't lift. So no one would teach that all while. But You know, the people, the ski jump, when Buklev came up, was laughing at him at first, until he won tournaments, until he was beating them all and become the World Cup champion. And the next season, that's history now. He changed ski jumping forever. He changed it. One guy from Sweden. Imagine that. No, you don't need to imagine. It actually fucking happened. Now, 50 years ago, this other guy called Fosbury changed high jump forever. Now, so that's my grip. Now, here's the thing. I can go into, the summit of PGA Summit, right? When all those two pro gurus, teach. And I can tell them and ask them this question. That, who here in this group of PGA two pro gurus, you teach two pros? And everybody, we teach two pros. Which one of you can teach the perfect takeaway in 10 seconds flat? And I will bring up a beginner in golf and I said, teach this beginner in golf a perfect takeaway in 10 seconds flat. And none of them can do that, but I can. Because my takeaway, the way I teach it, makes you able to do a takeaway perfectly. And that works. And the other guys, the ladies, that teach on two pro, like Monte Schumblom or Crossfield or Sean Clements or Pete Cowan or Sean Fuller, they can't teach you that. There's so many other, it's kind of weird. Now, when I was teaching my takeaway in the first iterations, one of my members, he's a golf instructor in Southern Europe, actually not Sweden. And he has access to all those toys, TrackMan, whatever, right? And he had this kid, 18, 19 years old, who wanted to be a two pro. He was teaching him what PGA instructed him to teach, the modern golf swing, modern takeaway, right? So I said to this kid, let's try this takeaway that this guy from Sweden, that's me by the way, developed. And he tried it out. In the first session, he added 30 meters to his 8-iron. So this guy was hitting an 8-iron with the modern golf swing takeaway, and then he was doing my takeaway, and he added 30 more meters. The guy said, it kind of feels weird, but he looked at TrackMan and was thinking, I added 30 more meters here, what the hell is going on? So those two things alone that I've been teaching as far, which is my grip and the takeaway, allows people to change to a much easier way to play golf. That's more fun, more natural, more power, and more accurate. Now, the third thing that's, which is total golf instruction is not released because, as you may know, I have an energy deficiency disorder. This is why I try to keep this kind of bit as short as possible also, but it's easier to talk about things than actually to write things out, either in typing it or writing it for me. Talking is less, typing it actually requires more attention, requires more energy to do. Most people don't think about that because you have a lot of energy, I do not. So I have to, become aware of this kind of stuff. So my grip and my takeaway changes golf instruction forever. It's the best. There's nothing better out there. No one else can teach you this. Now, when you look at Hans, for example, his swing mechanic is the best in the world in the history of golf. There is no one else than able to swing like that in the history of golf. He's better than Mike Austin. Some of you are fans of him. He's better than C-Motion, Lee Comeaux. He's better than, any two pro, like Tiger Woods, Brooks Koepka, Jordan Spieth, Scottie Scheffler. He's better than Ben Hogan, Moe Norman. He's just the best. Now, I know people will say, well, you can say whatever you want, Rob. Yes, I can. It's, opinions and, free speech and all that stuff. But there's also a way to quantify that. I can prove that, what I'm saying also. Because I like to do that. Because I think it's a good way to convince people, at least, right? Oh, you have evidence. Well, that's kind of weird. No one else does. Yeah, I know that. Everybody else has an opinion that they state as a fact, but it's not a fact. If you're trying to explain something and you state, well, that's a fact, well, that's not a fact. That's a statement, an opinion, but it's not a fact. It could be a fact, right, if you provide evidence. The problem is people, when they're trying to provide evidence, there is no evidence. There is nothing you can correlate, you know. So people who try my grip, they try, you know, and take away, find themselves swinging easier with more power. So, and just recently, one of my members was posting his swing, and I told him, you know, you're doing this inside takeaway. You shouldn't do that. You should, you know, start doing my exercise. And he was like, really? Yeah. Because a lot, you know, like Mike Olsen was telling people, you know, inside, you know, that's stupid. Right? Anyway, so he started doing that. So the first video he posted, and I teach people to do this without the club, by the way, right? And the first video he made, I said, you know, you're still moving your body this way, you shouldn't do that. And I told him to, you know, keep his body still and do this other thing instead. He did that. And he said, you know, like most people do, oh, this feels wrong. Yeah, I know. You have to do that for daily, for about at least 3 weeks, probably longer, until you start to feel good. That's how your brain learns, by the way. So he started doing this. It got, I don't know how long ago. He posted a video anyway yesterday from the range. And now his takeaway actually started to function as it should. But he didn't know how to do this before, and he couldn't change to that before because he didn't do and follow the instruction I developed last year, that I presented last year. But now he did that. And after a couple of, I don't know if it's 2 weeks or 1 week, whatever, he was hitting balls at the range and he was fucking happy. Can you imagine something? You do some exercise and suddenly you take away just something that fucking works? Because no true pro guru can teach you that. And I can, because, as I like to say, I make you better. That's what I do. So when you see these guys on the YouTube, they use my grip, and they have a swing mechanic that people can't teach you. It's just, you know, the sequence Hans, for example, uses is the best mechanic in the golf history of the world. Comeaux can't do that. He has to compensate. Moe Norman couldn't do that because he had to compensate. Hogan couldn't do that because he had to compensate. Because, you know, when I measure things, you know, you have to understand that there is, I like to call it margin of error, right? So if you're a true pro, you have this kind of margin of error. As long as you swing within your margin of error, you hit good shots. But since your margin of error is this big, that means that your margin of error is very hard to maintain. So usually people, you know, do that and then they hit shots all over the place. And then they go back to, you know, maybe maintain and hit the good shots again. And they don't know why they lose the, you know, the margin of error. I understand why, because what they're teaching those two pros to do as amateurs is too difficult to perform in a consistent way. It's not possible. Right? Now, Hans has this margin of error. Moe Norman had this margin of error. I know, I'm, you know, making up how much that is, but, you know, you get the guys of the idea at least. If you have a more natural, you don't need to compensate during your golf swing or whatever you do, then it's easy to repeat it. And if it's easy to repeat it, you have more consistency. And if it's more consistent, overall you're going to hit better golf shots. The problem with Jordan Spieth and Brooks Koepka, for example, or Tiger or such, is their mechanic they do is too difficult to perform for a human being. That's why they can't hit the shots they want. They try to hit the shots they want, but they can't do it in a consistent way. That's why the scores goes like this, you know, all the time, because they lose their margin of error, and they can't fix it. I know, if you're an amateur, or maybe even a two pro, or even a guru, maybe you're a candidate to a two pro, you still believe in all that shit people have been teaching you for 120 years. The same way they were teaching, you know, high jump or ski jumping once upon a time, and no one is teaching that anymore. I wonder why. Maybe because it sucked ass. That's a technical term, by the way. So my grip and my takeaway is the best in the world. It's an instruction that actually works. That means it doesn't, fuck you over. It just works. So you may not realize that yet. I know, because if people have been brainwashing you for 120 years and this is the way, and you never question that, and everybody doing it, then that must be it. Well, everybody was doing that with ski jumping and high jumping also once upon a time. And then they stopped that and changed to a different mechanic. Why? Well, you know why. Because it's better. And that's what I make you.